Welcome to the second to last episode of the ABC Reading Challenge. This is Ruby Jean Reads. I'm Ruby Jean and I love to read. Today we're going to be reading books W and book X, and I just got back from Barnes & Noble's with book W, which is Wisteria. This is the third and final book. It quite literally just came out of the Belladonna trilogy. I actually did read Belladonna and Foxglove for the ABC Reading Challenge, so you should definitely check out those two episodes to hear my reviews on that, but I'm especially excited for this book because there has been a supporting character throughout the first two books who I have really enjoyed, and rumor has it she's the main character of this book. I've never been more excited for a female main character shift in a series before in my life. Another reason I'm excited is that, and I'm going to have to speak in code here because this is a spoiler-free read with me, but there is a sub-trope of the forced proximity trope. Are you following? I can't tell you exactly which subtrope it is because that does spoil how Foxglove ends, but this book has a forced proximity trope, and this particular one is what I have been dying to read and find a book that does this trope well, so I'm very pumped. Also, am I a little upset that my first two copies are paperback and this one is hardback? Absolutely. But what I am really excited about is that it's the Barnes & Noble's exclusive edition, and let me just show you something. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this might be one of the prettiest hardback books I've ever seen. It's said that the wisteria vine is a symbol of immortality. Ooh, this trilogy, grows on me often. I keep finding myself thinking back on this trilogy, and I'm so pumped to read this one. First of all, 5 stars just for the cover. But I have a very strong feeling that this is going to be a 5-star book, and I'm very pumped about it. Just look at that page spread. That is stunning. Okay. There is really no better way to kick this off than with a subscribers to seconds challenge. So if you're not familiar with what that is, it looks a little bit like this. Reading a second for every subscriber I have on my booktube channel, day 21. I currently have 4,130 subscribers, which means today I'm going to be reading for 1 hour, 8 minutes, and 50 seconds. After I introduce the book, I just record myself reading for that entire time with 0 interruptions, and then I'll just edit it together at my computer, post it to my social medias, and I've already cranked through the first big chunk of the book. Page 124 to be exact, which actually, gravity is working against me, which also gets me to part 2. I have so many thoughts about this book already, but all I can say is that I'm obsessed with it so far. If you can hear Soka's toy, I apologize. It is very loud, but I just don't have the heart to take it away from her right now. This book is phenomenal. I'm already predicting it's going to be a 5-star book unless something tragic happens. It's amazing. Slow burn, enemies to lovers, forced proximity, all of my favorite things really wrapped up into one book. Insane bickering that's low-key flirting and then low-key touch her you die energy. My poor mother watching this is probably so concerned for my health, but honestly so stinking fun. Everything you look for in a romantasy is in this book, and I'm obsessed, except for maybe dragons, but that's okay. It's not the kind of fantasy that you would typically think of. It's more mythology type fantasy than magic fantasy. Now, I have a very eventful day planned for tomorrow, and when I say very eventful, I mean half of the day is still a mystery to me. We're definitely going to play it by ear. I'm just going to read until I go to bed tonight, and then we will just see what tomorrow holds. Hey, baby girl. After a full day of travel, I'm ready to get back into it. It is the next day. A lot happened. Let's just start there. I wanted to be present because I ended up driving all the way to West Virginia to see family. I was able to fit in pockets of reading here and there all day yesterday and a little bit this morning, and I'm officially at the 75% mark of Wisteria, which is also the end of part 2. I must say that I'm so ready to crank out this book right now because I'm absolutely obsessed with it. Like, when I tell you, It is phenomenal. This is checking all of my romantasy boxes. I'm obsessed with everything. There hasn't been a single moment that I've been annoyed or upset, or if it has upset me, it's like upset me in a good way. Like it's keeping me on the edge of my seat, and it has me wanting to crank through to the ending because I need to know how this book ends, but at the same time, I'm also horrified to finish it because I'm having such an amazing time and I know this is the end of the trilogy. So I am predicting, unless it has the most anticlimactic ending of all time, this is definitely going to be a 5-star read for me. And I don't know what's happened in the last 24 hours, but I've gotten like a baby spike of subscribers, and we have so many new buddies who joined us in the last 24 hours. So I think the best way to finish out Wisteria is with a subscribers to seconds. Reading a second for every subscriber I have on my booktube channel, day 22. I currently have 4,205 subscribers, which means today we're reading for 1 hour, 10 minutes, and 5 seconds. After filming the entire thing, I edited and put it together and posted it to social medias. But here's the thing, when the time ran out for my subscribers to seconds challenge, I only had 20 pages left, so I just went ahead and finished reading the book while editing. And I have so many emotions. 5-star, without a doubt. Let's just add it to the chart right now. Absolutely in love with this book. It was phenomenal. The trope, amazing. The romance, amazing. The aesthetics. I was not expecting this to be a winter book, but it was very much a winter book. So I'm really glad that I picked it up like after October when I'm like getting in the Christmassy mood. So that was also phenomenal. And then, I wouldn't consider this a spoiler, but you know how sometimes there's a time jump at the end of a book and the last chapter or the epilogue is like so many years later. I have never read a so many years later chapter that was so emotional. Like, I saw that it was so many years later and I was like, no time jump, please don't time jump. And it ripped my heart out, but in all the best ways. I really did enjoy that epilogue, and I feel like that was like the best use of a time jump epilogue in my opinion, and it just gave the book such a better, well-rounded ending. I loved everything about this book. I wouldn't change a thing, and that's crazy. The wild thing is I'm starting to second guess myself that this was a trilogy. Potentially, you could argue, were some setups for a 4th book. Hold on, I'm checking Goodreads. I'm wondering, have I just always assumed this was a trilogy? Because if it turns out there's going to be another book, I'm going to be so pleased. Oh, okay, that's good to know. There's going to be a novella. That could potentially, yeah, because it wasn't setting up a whole book, but there are definitely some loose ends that need to be tied up. So maybe that's where the novella is going to come into play. Interesting. That's perfect. I think I'm very happy with that. Sometimes novellas are like, okay, whatever. But some novellas are like perfectly placed, perfectly timed, and it does take place after book 3, according to the description. So I'm very excited now, but I have to wait 10 more months. All right, now let's just jump to book X. There were no honorable mentions, honestly. I only chose this book because it was the only thing I could find. Nothing about this book seemed interesting to me, and I have a confession to make. I'm already halfway done with the book. The book is XOXO, and I was in a situation yesterday after driving on the road where I had to wait in the car for my husband for a couple hours, and it was already dark and I was waiting in the car, so I couldn't read Wisteria because I couldn't see the pages and I didn't want to use my flashlight in a parking lot. So what I did instead was I started reading XOXO on the iPad. Then later today, I went on a walk with Soka because she was a little stir crazy and I figured it would be a great time to just like read while walking. I'm so sorry guys, I'm already halfway done with it. But that's great because then we can just jump right into talking about it. This book is rough. I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm struggling. I will just preface it right now. I have not watched a K-drama. And I do not necessarily, I'll throw in that little asterisk there, I do not necessarily listen to K-pop. I do know some songs. I do listen to Blackpink a little bit. And I've heard a couple songs by, what are they called? BTS.
The smooth like butter.
So I technically do listen to K-pop, but I don't listen to K-pop. The entire premise of this book And all I knew about it going in was that it was a girl who basically finds herself in a K-pop plotline that involves a K-idol. And a K-idol is what they call K-pop stars in Korea. It's this girl who lives in Los Angeles, and she goes to basically think that one school from Victorious, that old Nickelodeon TV show, and she wants to professionally play cello. And so that's kind of like her specialty in her fine art school, if you will. And then her mother needs to go live and stay in Korea for a couple months, and she decides instead of staying behind, she's going to go with her mother and spend half of a school year at a performing arts school in Seoul, Korea. And the crazy thing is that majority of the people who are studying at this school, or at least the way it's reading so far, are people who are trying to become K-pop idols, or they technically already are. So it's kind of cool. Like, I'm learning a lot about Korean culture, especially in like the performing arts space. I'm not gonna lie, I'm definitely very fascinated about like the politics, I guess you could say, into like what goes into making a K-pop group, because it's apparently like a very structured process. Here's the issue. This book reads like a 13-year-old wrote it, and I don't say that as a disrespect to 13-year-olds in the slightest. The author is writing about romance in a way that is insanely superficial, is writing friendships insanely superficial. Like, everything just screams that the author doesn't really seem to have experience with the types of relationships that she is writing about. It very much reads like a Hallmark movie that just happens to take place in Seoul, Korea. I will say though, this book has me interested in listening to K-pop more, as well as definitely very interested in Korean culture. So that's cool. I mean, there's something good to be said there. And I do think the plot is very fun. I just don't like how it's being written. It's painful to read because I am cringing a lot. And by a lot, I mean like every single page. Thankfully, it is a short book, and because it is written at such a superficial level, I can read it very quickly. Like, there's not really much to comprehend. It's very straightforward, so I'm finding that my reading pace is insanely quick. So I'm hoping to just crank out this book tonight and get it over with, because we needed a book X, okay? I'm just happy to say that book Y I've been dying to read, and book Z seems like it's going to be really, really good. So, oh, that's another thing. There's like a huge subplot where she's so obsessed. And this to me also screams 13-year-old. And I say that because I was like this at 13 too, okay? The read receipts. She's obsessed with read receipts. Like, every single time she sends a text message, which is a lot because she's like 16, she sends a lot of text messages, and she like takes a mental note of how long it takes people to open her text messages. And I'm just like, it's not that deep. I honestly turned off my read receipts years ago. Never thought about it since. Never worried about it. Never missed it. Let's finish this book and add it to the chart.
Such a pretty girl.
Soka felt like joining the party. Don't know how long this will last, but we'll see. That was just bad. I don't know what else to say. Like, I think it was a cute premise and it was a cute idea. And for that reason alone, I'm tempted to give it 2 stars, because here's the thing. I didn't enjoy it. I rolled my eyes so hard so many times that I got a headache at one point. But in all reality, like, I didn't hate it. I wasn't miserable. I'm kind of stuck between 1 and 2 stars. 1 just seems rude, because here's the thing. I can step out of myself and admit the fact that this wasn't a bad book. this book just was not for me. Like, nothing about this book is what I like in a book. So it was almost set up to fail from the beginning, which is why I think I'm leaning more towards 2 stars. I'm not going to pretend like I'm the end all be all of opinions, because I'm not. They're called opinions for a reason. Here's the thing that's also odd to me. There were 0 stakes, really, the whole time. It was a really horrible communication trope, that's for sure. But I think the part that really got to me is that even in how the book is advertised, it's like they both want to lead separate lives. Will she choose to be with the one she loves, or will she choose to do what she loves? I don't know. I never really bought that she loved what she said she did, and I never really bought that the relationship was like destined to be. And then on top of that, I didn't feel like it had to be mutually exclusive ever. At that point, it just felt like a very dramatic way to make the situation bigger than it was. I get that the main character had reasons for thinking why she had to choose one or the other, but I was like, why are we thinking in black and white? Like, there's clearly a bajillion other options here. Also, if you love someone, you just make it work. And I think it's kind of hysterical how that just like was not really discussed until closer to the end as an option. So those are my thoughts. What are yours? Very insightful. All right, well, Soka and Mommy are very sleepy, so we're gonna head to bed, and I'll see you next week for the last episode in the ABC Reading Challenge, where we're going to be reading books Y and Z. I can't believe we had an amazing book and a horrible book in one video. That's impressive. While you wait for the Y and Z episode, I think you should watch some of my other reading challenge videos, and of course, you should subscribe and stick along for the ride. See you next week.